C.S. Lewis just throw canon and lore to the wind? Well, here we go. The next book in the Chronicles of Narnia, in publication order, The Horse and His Boy, yes. And while, yes, this may be the fifth book in publication order, this is actually the first book that C.S. Lewis decided to make as sort of a midquel, prequel type of deal. This is his weird, juxtaposition here, going back to the beginning, if you will. Because unlike another book in the saga, The Magician's Nephew, which is purely a prequel, this book is kind of a midquel. It actually takes place in between the reign of, the Peregrine children. I know I keep on mispronouncing their name. Sue me. I can't say words. I can't say names, whatever. But yeah, it's in the reigns of them. So in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, before they go back through the wardrobe as 30-year-olds or something, this story takes place. Which I gotta say, as a young kid growing up in the 50s, as a kid growing up in, today, you'd probably have more success in, publishing this type of work because, kids have access to the internet. So if you have a mid-cool idea and you want to just publish it out of the cold blue, you probably could, and kids wouldn't necessarily get completely confused. But in the 1950s, I think most adults didn't even know what a midquel was. So the fact that you have a midquel right after this type of book is just very whatever, to say the least. It would frustrate me if I grew up in the 50s, let's put it that way. In fact, this type of thing kind of frustrates me now because I am very OCD when it comes to books and their perspective storylines. And the only reason why I'm reviewing these books in publication order and not chronological order is because, honestly, it makes sense within the realm of C.S. Lewis's mind and how he thought. Because, to be perfectly honest with you, I dare say believe that the only reason this book exists is because he needed to explain a lot of things that he wrote in The Last Battle, which, yes, we'll get to. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are not necessarily explained that are in The Last Battle that none of the other books have even mentioned. So he had to write this book in order to, implement some factors and some things from within the lore that would make sense in the final book. Like, for instance, apparently, this book takes place not in Narnia, but most of the book takes place in the giant expansionist empire known as Calormen. And apparently, this empire is to the south of Narnia, and the only reason that it is not within Narnia, and it hasn't taken over Narnia, is because in between Narnia and the Calormen Empire is a vast, stretching desert. Can you get to it, though, in between, can people actually go back and forth between the desert and Narnia and the Calormen Empire? Yes, you can. Why they haven't done this before, I don't know. Whatever. Also, this is one of the first books. Yeah, I would say, the first book that is very explicit when it comes to racism. Because this is the first book in this series of books that express the Calormens as having dark skin and weird-shaped eyes. Oh, gee. Wonderful. Oh, yeah, might as well get this out of the way, too. Another asterisk in this book. Yeah, you know how C.S. Lewis kind of, put into his lore how there were humans that weren't the Peregrine children and all that, or Eustace or whoever, you know how he put expressive detail into how humans inhabited this, fantasy world, how they were pirates and all that, and they came into Narnia and all that, after the Peregrine children, I guess, left or whatever in the 400 years and all that type of thing. And the island inhabitants, humans, they were just descendants of those people and all that. Yeah, throw that out the window because these humans, they're just here. Yeah, I guess in Prince Caspian, they were kind of surprised to see humans actually, inhabiting this earth. But, yeah, apparently the Peregrine children, they knew that there were other humans within this land the whole time. So there you go. Joy to the world. Oh my gosh, this is making my head hurt. Oh yeah, and by the way, the boy and the horse and his boy? Yeah, there's not a huge connection between the Peregrine children and this one boy. He meets them eventually, but he kind of is separate from the whole other thing, which, by the way, okay, on the surface, okay, it could work. Honestly, the way it's written, it could work if it had a good character arc, something that, these books haven't had for a few books now. But yeah, we'll see. We'll put a pin in that. We'll get back to that later. Maybe CS will surprise us, who knows. But the titular boy is named Ashtar, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. There's a lot of weird names, okay, in this book. One of them's named Shastar, and one's named Ashish. Sort of like a sneeze. It's kind of interesting, kind of funny, but also, dare I say it's also somewhat racist as well, because this is supposed to be the Islamic country, supposedly, quote unquote, in this world. So take for that what you will. But anyway, Shastar, he's a Narnian. We know that because he's white. There you go. And he's found by this Calorman who adopts him because he finds him on the shores of Calorman and all that. And he adopts him, but he apparently treats him as a servant rather than a son. And then an official comes by and tries to buy Shastar from this guy. And the guy's like, how much? Basically, not really giving much of a thought. But going through this book, you may be wondering why I believe that these Calormans are technically the Islamic empire, quote unquote, of this world. That's because their currency is crescents. And he sells them. The guy sells Ashtar for 70 crescents. Gee, I wonder what connection that could have in the real world. Anyway, I guess Ashtar's like, oh shoot, maybe, being a slave is better than being a servant to this guy, but he's still, whatever about it. So he walks over to this warhorse who apparently can talk. Oh, wow. And yeah, he is apparently a Narnian. He's a Narnian horse that was taken capture by this Calorman. The horse and his boy are together for the book. Yay! At least, it starts out in the first few pages with a horse and a boy, and not, the silver chair that happens to be gone within 5 pages in the middle of the book. I'm sorry, I'm still not over that. Oh, and by the way, the horse is named Brie, like the cheese. Yeah, I mean, nothing really worthy of note. It's just a kind of a cute name. Also, apparently, the title is no coincidence. It's not called The Boy and His Horse. It's The Horse and His Boy, because the horse really takes charge over the boy, because the boy is pretty clueless And the only reason why the boys even, help, on the horse is because the horse needs a rider to, blend in with, whatever, Chlormans and all that. Whatever. Anyway, horse and his boy, let's go. So, the boy, he mounts the horse, and they ride, and they ride, and they ride, and, they are being chased by a lion, not Aslan. Don't even think that a lion in this story could ever be Aslan, especially in Calormen. Gee, no, it's not Aslan at all. Brace for impact. Anyway, they lead to the gender-swapped versions of themselves, basically. A girl on another horse, where this girl is escaping her whole, terrible life. And apparently this girl drugged her handmaiden because I guess her owner promised her hand in marriage to the older vizier. Yeah, child brides. Wonderful. Not even surprised anymore. Whatever. Anyway, but yeah, apparently she found a Narnian horse as well, and that she was like, all right, let's escape. And even though the Ashtar and the girl, they hate each other, the two Narnian horses, they love each other, so they're just like, let's team up. And they're like, okay. So they run, and then they're, captured by Eustace. No, not Eustace. Edmund and Lucy. Yes, the crossover. It's here, finally. Let's go. Anyway, these rulers, they take him in, they feed him, they give him water and all that, and then Ashtar hears what they're going to try to do to him, later on and all that. Apparently, this time we also get another LLD, Lewis Lord dump, of course, Joy, and apparently they were in here in Calormen to discuss some keenly things, but the prince has become infatuated with Susan, so he wants to marry said Susan and will do anything in order to get her hand in marriage. And apparently there's a secret path in the desert to safely get back to Narnia, so, Ashtar's like, all right, well let's do this. And then the prince, comes into through the window, because, apparently he was fist fighting and all that throughout the land. And, they bond a little bit, the prince and Ashtar, before they switch places. And then, there we go. It's at this point that the girl, I guess, meets one of her enslaved people who was also a child bride. And she's like, come with us. And the other girl's like, no, because she's in the Richie Rich lifestyle or whatever. So, okay. So then they secretly meet to escape through this weird secret palace escape routes, and over here, 3 of the highest, guards and kings of the, the 3 highest guards, kings, and of the Calormen and all that discuss what to do and all that. And upon the escape of his child bride, the prince is like, hey, let's attack Narnia now, because we got one of the kings and one of the queens here, and King Peter apparently is off fighting some giants. So I think now is a suitable time to, take over Narnia and kidnap Queen Susan and all that stuff. Okay. The king gives his blessing to the prince, but apparently he also says that if he fails, he will disavow him and tell the people he has no knowledge of his attack. So basically, it's a win-win situation for the king, but a win-lose situation for the prince. Okay, Joy. So then Ashtar, I guess, escapes the palace and spends the night in this, alley or something, and apparently jackals come around. Okay. And then, apparently this lion supposedly comes around to fight him off, scare him off and all that, but apparently as soon as the thing gets closer, it's apparently a little cat. Okay. So I guess they all meet up in the morning and all that, and they're going through the desert, and they're going on oases and all that. The Bree horse, he's all like lazy and whatever, doubting himself as like a war horse and all that, and is just like being all proud and all that, but he's still being lazy. But apparently they get the move on because another lion, oh wow, comes around, and this time this lion, he cuts the back, claws the back of the little girl. Okay, and she's bleeding, she's hurt and all that, but they're still running, and Asher's like screaming, and the lion runs away because of the screaming, I guess. And after that, they meet this old ass hermit thing. That's very similar, if you look into it, to a gnome. Like, not those little garden gnomes, but like an old man who lives in like a little shack in a huge-ass garden. That type of gnome. The original gnome, yeah, he sounds a little bit like that. So, yeah, the hermit, he takes the girl in, and, she's resting. And the horse, Bree, is in the shame corner for a long time because he failed doing his thing. But Shaster, he runs and he runs and he runs, and then he finds the king of this smaller country in between Narnia and the Calorman Empire and all that, and he warns the king of the impending doom, and he rides with the king to, to battle. But apparently he cannot ride a horse that is not sentient, and he fails tremendously. And it was actually during this moment when he's lost in a fog that this huge-ass lion that apparently has been the one and the same lion that's been chasing them and all that. All these lion sightings, there's just one lion. And lo and behold, the only lion apparently in these books, Aslan. Oh, wow. Apparently Aslan was the one chasing them and clawing at the girl and all that. And apparently he did all this to help them on their journey, including clawing the little girl for some reason. Okay. But the next day he finds out, Asher finds out that he's actually been going to Narnia. So yay, he's in Narnia finally. It's a miracle. And he goes. He has help for some woodland creatures and all that to take him to King Edmund. And King Edmund hears of the impending doom and attack, and he's like, round up the guards, we're going to war. And apparently Lucy, with her awesome fighting skills now, with her weapons and all that, decides to join them on their quest. And Asher is given a dwarf's armor because another kid, I guess, injured the dwarf somehow. I don't know. Anyway, what's weird, okay, all this stuff is very bizarre and just a lot of, interesting twists and turns. Honestly, up to this part, it's actually been pretty good. Honestly, there's been stakes, there's been, a lot of fighting, and there's been a lot of drama and all that. I get it. It's pretty good, actually. But it's at this point that the action kind of takes a dull move here. I don't know what C.S. Lewis was wanting to achieve with this, but instead of actually, showing the battle being portrayed in the book, which, would cost $0 to make, it's not like a Hollywood motion picture. Instead, he has the hermit talk about the battle to the horses as it plays out, like a commentary. Again, costing $0. So I don't understand why Lewis decided to do this. They weren't making movies based on this story yet, so I have literally no clue why he decided to do this. But it honestly just sucks all the drama out of the book, in my opinion. But after all the battles and all that, apparently the kids they capture the prince, and they try to be merciful toward him, but the prince is just a slaving ass hat and all that. And it's only until Aslan comes around to actually help out where, yeah, apparently he turns the prince into a donkey and tells him that he can only not be a donkey if he doesn't come back to Narnia. And if he does try to come back to Narnia in any way, he will be turned into a donkey permanently. Okay. I gotta admit, reading this part for the first time as an adult is kind of hilarious because he was acting like an ass and now he's becoming an ass. I gotta admit, CS, you can put on some joke. You could be a jokester. You know, you can be a jokester when you want to be. It's not a lot, not most of the time, but you can be a jokester when you want to be. And it's during this moment we get another Lewis lore dump as well, where the king of the other country that's not Narnia, but it's a smaller country to the south of Narnia or whatever, turns out that this king is actually the Ashtor's son. What? Whoa. And apparently his real name's Kor, I guess. So yeah, there's that too. And apparently his kidnapping was this whole thing about this prophecy about the kid trying to rise up and defeat this whole thing, and actually the prophecy came true. Joy to the world. We've seen this in Star Wars. George probably got this honestly from this book. I don't know. George steals a lot of things. That's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. And a lot of Star Wars fans just immediately turned off this video as I spoke that. And apparently, since he was born 20 minutes before his brother, he's the rightful prince and soon-to-be ruler of the entire kingdom. Okay. And then Aslan talks to Bree and all that, and talks to, the little girl that he gave the lashes to. And apparently, the reason he gave the lashes to the girl was because her handmaiden got 10 lashes for, the whole debacle that, she lost her. So, yeah, she had to get 20 lashes or whatever because she got 20 lashes or something. Okay. Fine. All right, and that's the end. That's the end of this book. Apparently, the Corman or whoever he becomes a great king, and this guy marries the little girl and all that, and yeah, there you go. Apparently, honestly though, actual good interracial marriage, that's something that's pretty rare in certain prospects, especially fantasy back in the day. So yeah, props to him for that. Overall though, what did I think about this particular book? It's actually not that bad, let me tell you. There was actual character development. There was actual stakes. I didn't think that the protagonist was extremely boring and that, the main kids or whatever were not going to learn a lesson, because each of them actually went through a character arc and each of them learned a lesson. And each of them, had a major, big, huge plot. They had a part to play in the plot. I had to record that like 4 times because that was really hard to say. But anyway, they each had a part to play in the plot. Great job. I mean, gosh. And also, the title of the book is the main focus of the book. I didn't think I had to say that in a Narnia book, but there you go. Props to that. There are a few critiques that I would happily say here. First of all, racism, of course. I mean, yeah, obviously. Second, the weirdest part of this whole book, except minus the racism, was the whole commentary on the battle, which I have no idea why C.S. Lewis decided to do this. I don't know. Maybe, and this is just an offhand point, I haven't done any research on this, maybe the only reason why he decided to do this particular part was because maybe, and again, you can research this yourself if you really want to, but I know that there were some radio dramas about, the Chronicles of Narnia and all that. I don't know if they were being made at this point, but maybe that was an homage to the radio dramas that were being made on this thing. I know there was no, live action stuff or any animated stuff up to this point, but I don't know. Maybe it was an homage to the radio dramas, but yeah, it was still not good, but maybe that was the whole point. I don't know. But other than those things, I gotta say, this is actually a very good book. I actually enjoyed reading it, and I didn't feel like it was extremely boring or something was extremely weird or whatever, minus the racism. But what can you do? Ignoring the racism. This is actually a really decent book. So with that, I would actually put this book just below Prince Caspian. I mean, it's very close, but just below Prince Caspian, mainly due to the weird thing with the battle and, of course, the racism. But other than those things, honestly, a very solid read.